Frisian, what does it look like, and what does it sound like, and how does it work? Here's a page from a novel in Frisian. And I think that if you were a hapless library cataloger or bookstore worker and you had to identify this page and correctly classify it, you'd be somewhat harder pressed than you were with our previous examples. You would look at the place of publication and find that this book comes from Holland, so you would think this must be Dutch. But you'd remember our Little Dutch video where we saw some of the distinctive features of Dutch, where the absence of any accent markers on the page and the presence of lots of IJs, and we do see accents on this page and we don't see the IJs, so we know it's not Dutch. And then we'd remember what we saw last week of Afrikaans, and we would think this page looks a lot more like that. Let's look at our Afrikaans page again and remember its distinctive features. Those IJs have been systematically replaced by Ys, and there are accents on the page, and moreover there are when we look for the accents we find freestanding apostrophes in front of N's, and it seems like we can find some of these features on this page too. There are certainly a fair amount of Y's all over the place, and we find accents on the page certainly, and we also find freestanding apostrophes. But if we look more carefully and do some better comparison, we find, well, first of all, the freestanding apostrophes are not in front of N's, they're in front of E's or in front of T's down here. And the accents are not only on the E as they were. If we were to look more carefully at the Afrikaans book, they're on almost all the vowels. Here they are on the A and on the U, and down here on the O. And so there's something different going on here. This is Frisian. This is what Frisian looks like. And what does Frisian sound like? Frisian sounds something a little bit like this. Doet net lang voor de Tweede Wereldoorlog in friske wetenschappelijke instelling uit de eindzette, wie ik een van de nabenoemde leden uit Engeland oorkomen om de opening bij te winnen. Doet, win it, net, not, lang, long, voor, before, the Tweede, Second Wereldoorlog, World War, in a friske, Frisian, wetenschappelijke, scientific or scholarly instelling, conference or colloquium, uit de eindzette, out the ein end zette, moved. So it's a colloquial way of saying began. Wie was, ik, also, een, one, van, of, the nabenoemde, newly named leden, leaders, out, England, oorkomen, overcome, come over, in order to, the opening, bij te winnen, by, to winnen, live, so to participate in. So when, not long before the Second World War, a Frisian scholarly conference began, one of the participants was a newly named leader who came out of England in order to participate at the opening. Het wie een jonge geleerde, lector aan een van Engelands verneemde universiteiten. It wie was in a young geleerde, scholar, lector, on, or at, one, van, of, England's, verneemste, most famous, outstanding, universiteiten, universities. So it was a young scholar, a lector at one of England's leading universities. Hij wie tegen tussen Frieslands verlenen en in de friske schriften. He, wie, was, tegen, very, thuis, at home, so very versed, in Frieslands, Frieslands, verlenen, past, in, and in, the friske, Frisian schriften, writings. So he was very well versed in Frisian history and in Frisian writings. So this is kind of an idea of what Frisian sounds like and how it works. And what is it, though? That's a good question, because it's Frisian. If I take this down and put this here in its place, Frisian, you heard it's from Holland. Is it a Dutch dialect? Well, this is a very tricky kettle of fish to open. It is not a dialect of Dutch by any means, in the sense of a dialect being a substandard or a regional variety of a language. It's a self-standing language. We have Old Frisian and Middle Frisian text with its own development. It is a language that is, here we have a comparative chart of English, Frisian, Dutch, and German, and it is actually, in genetic terms, all of these languages are really dialects of each other from a polyglot's point of view and the point of view of historical philology. They're all sisters, closely related to each other, but the closeness comes in groups. And English and Frisian are actually, we can almost think of them as perhaps twin sisters. English moved abroad and had an exciting history, and Frisian stayed at home this whole time. So perhaps Frisian is what English would look like if it had not had its sort of overseas history. In this comparative chart, we can see in English we have us, in Frisian that's us, in Nederlands ons, in Duits uns, cheese, cheese, kaas, käse, key, kei, sleutel, schlüssel, have been geweest, bin gewezen, two sheep, twa stiep, twee schapen, zwei schafen. So you can see the closer relationship between English and Frisian here, although but through its history now, having stayed in the Kingdom of Holland for its whole history, it's now a lot closer to Dutch by evolution. Why would you want to learn it? It's a very small language, or group of languages, comparatively speaking. It has over 500,000 speakers, 600,000 speakers perhaps, and there are other. What we're looking at is technically called West Frisian. There's also North and East Frisian that are also separate varieties of Frisian, but very, very small languages spoken in northern Germany and on the Danish border. You might want to learn this, though, because as you see in this chart, it's an integral part of the family, and not knowing it leaves a gap. Knowing it fills out the picture, and knowing it helps you understand the relationship between languages, which is a transferable skill, and the more you know of this kind of thing, the easier it becomes to learn other languages. And Frisian is an easy language to learn. I can say that almost objectively because of its close relationship, and because of the existence of good manuals like this. Butter, brie, and green is good Engels and good Fries. That's the name of this book. It's the name of a rhyme. It means butter, bread, and green cheese is good English and good Frisian. It's an old rhyme. And this book is very much something that you can almost read and enjoy as you're learning. It's trilingual, English, Dutch, and Frisian here. I'll open to this page and maybe you can see some. But I see also by the timer on this clock that I'm running out of time on this little recording, so I'd like to say another reason why Frisian is very easy to learn is because the people who speak it, particularly the people in the Friskewit and Skipperlik Museum and places like that, are overjoyed when you show interest in their language. So if you go to Ljouwert and you go into one of these places and you show interest in their language, here I'll show a page of addresses for Frisian, you will get red carpet treatment. So enjoy exploring this little known but very interesting language.